On my last video, my LED light seemed to go out, and I opened it up real quick, and I realized that not all the LEDs that are up in the head are not in series. So if one failed, other ones would stay on. So I reset I changed out the switching adapter, one of them little USB adapters, and it came on. Then I went back and put the bad one back on, and it's working now. So some type of glitch. Now, what this video is about is the elephant in the room. Now, right here, this is a round white disc. There's one here, and there's one further up. And they say Westinghouse on them. And I went for a walk, and I'm like in my head, Westinghouse. I did work for them indirectly for a company, and they were mostly big power transformers and everything. So I'm saying to myself, they look like capacitor cans. They're mounted like capacitor cans. And I'm thinking, I say, you know what? They have the power come in through the back of the radio. Why would they have capacitors on the top of this radio? Big, cans. And I'm walking. I'm like, that can't be. So I came home. I put the light on, and right away, the first two, you can't see the first one. But there's one here, this one, and this one. They all say L. And I looked it up, and these two are interstage audio amp, and this is the output, the audio amp. Now, the other elephant in the room is the connector on the back of the radio. Now, I'll be able to. I think there's a hole on the back of the case also. I'll be able to. There's a knockout on the back of the case too, with two bolts. See, how can I get my power out of the back? Maybe I can come out with some wires where the plug is. See, is what you call an elephant in the room. In other words, I like to keep a radio as an original as I can without gaffing anything up. So, if you go to sell it, you say to the person, I kept it original. They could complain, oh, you didn't modify this. You do that. This is an original radio, basically untouched. I did unsolder two capacitors to see if they were going to be good. And but that's what I shoot for. I don't want to make I want the radio to be worth as much as it could be if I ever do. Like have a bunch of ham guys. There's a ham, what is it? A Red Rose Repeater Club. And I did go on once on their website trying to leave them a message, but it's an enigma. Their website. I just want to leave a message saying I do have some radios and I want to unload them. I do. I want to call the herd. Anyway, this radio is in really good condition. And if these were caps, I was hoping maybe they would reform. Well, that problem is gone. The next problem is bringing the wires out of the radio for ground, B plus, and that. And it looks like they switched the output jack for the headphones when they go into transmit. That back plug, it seems to go to the front jack, headphone jack seems to go out through that back plug and then come back in. So I'm thinking when they start transmitting, they knock the headphone jack and ground it out. That's how I think that this is. So there's going to be a trick. In other words, you can fix this, hook a power supply up to it, hook an antenna up to it, hook headphones into it, and nothing will come out because you need to jumper the back plug. Basically like the BC348, you have to jumper, it would be screen grid voltage to several tubes. That's what that jumper is, between pins 2 and 4. That's how they do it. They shut the front end off of the radio. And that's, one of those things you could go out of your mind troubleshooting something that it's just a matter of that's how it's made, and you have to tell the radio to receive. The BC348, you have to put that jumper on, and that tells the radio, I want you to receive. All right. Now on this one, it seems like you have to have a jumper on the back power jack to turn the front headphones on. That's very easy to use an ohm meter and to check it, to follow it back. Once you know that's what you're looking at, And you know, the one guy commented about watching me build the power supply. Yes, I probably do that. And at some point, I might get real brave and take the resistance reading from ground to the B plus and see what it is. And if it's I think I usually go, if it's over 6,000 ohms, I'll hit it with some voltage. You know, because some of these caps, the parts in this radio look too good to be dead shorted. Maybe I'll find one, but I'm looking at these transformers. I never seen transformers that look like capacitors before, with the same clamp mount. I showed you in a previous video. But you know, you're looking at this thing, and you can't. Was it you can't assume? And then the other thing too is when you go looking for this manual, you'll find it very quick. You know, used what did I say? Was it RM? Let me look. RBM-5. You'll find the manual right away. You keep looking. You'll find one. I think it's in Polish, and then you'll find schematics for it. But there's no like holy grail. All the other radios, you keep looking, all of a sudden you find the repair manual. Now the repair manual for this radio, I think it's part of the manual. It tells you how to do the alignment. I'm pretty sure I saw it. But in other words, this radio is much easier to work on than the BC348 and that other wacky BC120, whatever that thing was that I did the last time. I'm trying to forget about that radio. That was hard. That was really hard. See, the BC348 has terminal strips like this, but the capacitor is sitting on the back here. So I tell you to you cut the lead that would go here to the capacitor. You cut it, and then you grab the capacitor with a pair of pliers, nose pliers, move it up and down until the bottom wire fatigues and breaks, and then you put your capacitor on the front. Well, you don't have to do that. They have the capacitors on the front. So this thing is easier to repair. Now, I didn't have the option to get the AM broadcast one. There's the other model that goes next to this, the sister model, the brother model, whatever you want to call it. I didn't see one, and I would prefer another AM broadcast radio that looks really weird like this does over the high frequency model. But what's going on is I think there were more high frequency ones out there, and like I said, I haven't seen any modifications anywhere for any of this stuff, these models. And you know, it's so many screws to get this thing apart, but it's not hard to work on once you get the covers off it. And I want to use the word nomenclature. And what they do is every part in this radio, I mean every part has a number next to it. Like these capacitors, if you look real close, you'll see a number somewhere. Yeah, these resistors, it's behind these resistors. And you look that up, and you can find it on the schematic. And I think there is a parts list to find out what it is. So this isn't half the nightmare that I thought it was going to be. And plus, I got one that's in really great shape. You know, normally I get the one where, you know, somebody's got in there and bodged it. And like I said, that one time, the guy went in, he cut a bunch of wires like the booklet told him to do, and then he got lost. And he mounted the module in the radio, and that he put the 4 screws into it, cut a bunch of wires, cut wires he wasn't supposed to. And the wires are, even on this one, they're wire harnessed. And you follow a wire, like here, I think we can see one in the frame. Yeah, there's wire harnesses. These are all white wires. They're all the same color. And you follow in there, and you're following along, and you try to find the other end, and you got the ohm meter, and it turned out the guy cut the wire somehow in the wire harness, and then put the wire harness back, and the wire was just going and stopping. And I mentioned that in one of the videos. The guy goes, you got to learn to read the schematics better. No, when someone cuts a wire that shouldn't be cut in a spot that, well, anyway, no, I'm sorry. I've been on this stuff a lot longer. I got that radio working. Had the one guy, you just can't make an IF can like that. It worked. All right, I've taken IF cans apart. I've made them. I've done videos on how to make an IF can, cheating using chokes. But if you watch, I wind stuff. I wind coils. I've done it all. I don't have a ham license. My brain is like too. It's smart. It thinks things through. I finish stuff, but receiving the code, I can send, but receiving, it's like I'm always thinking of something else when I'm doing something. It's very hard for me to focus 100%. And for doing code, maybe if I practiced enough, it would kick in at some point. I don't know. That's one of the last things that maybe I'll give a try. I know most of the letters. I could send most of the letters. Didn't do the numbers. I can't hear the numbers. There's so many dots and dashes to do one number. I can't follow along. I just can't. But anyway, I've been into radios. I went to tech school. I went to computer schools. I have the background and hands-on. I told you I pulled stuff out of the garbage when I was a kid. I mean, I'd fix a radio and give it to somebody, or take it apart and save the parts, fix another one. And I installed CB radios. I installed stereo systems, $1,000 stereo systems in car, custom. I did it all, and I really didn't make a lot of money doing it. When you do a custom install, you got to be really, you got to have someone that's got money that wants it done. You can't have your friends who don't have a pot to piss in, and they have these big ideas, and then you're doing the big ideas. You're buying the parts, and then they never pay you. I went through a lot of that. But I just want to say, this radio, I'm starting to like it more and more, because I at this point I realize, unless one of those transformers is burnt out, I don't think this radio is going to screw me at all. Where those other ones, they were nightmares. And capacitors get to be expensive when you have to buy them 20 at a time or 30 at a time. But this thing here, I'm going to assume at this point that most of the caps are good. And I'm going to take a reading, and then the voltage is going on this radio with a fuse. I'll put a fuse in my power supply and then see if it comes up. But one of the tricks I'm going to tell you right now is that audio seems to go from the earphone jack to the back connector, and then it has to come jumper and come back in. And it looks like he's got a little on the schematic. It looks like there's a little lever, which usually means relay somewhere, maybe in the transmitter. So when the guy's transmitting, the headphones go dead, and that's why I think how it works. Every radio, military, shuts off the receiver a different way. So when you're sending, you're not hearing yourself. I don't know how they can do that, but yeah, I guess when you know code, you can hear the clicks. I don't know. I know myself is, you fat finger one of the dots, and becomes a dash, and after I'm practicing, my arm is starting to get like Parkinson's disease, and it's spasming by itself. Yeah, I give those guys credit, the code guys. Some of these walkie T guys, when I used to do the flea markets, they were annoying. But I just wanted to tell you, those are coils, which I was like, thank God, But they look like capacitors, and then the oil caps, they come out the bottom. I did those oil caps, and there's leads, so I can unsolder the lead and test those. And they're on the BC348s, the oil caps, and they never went bad. Now that last model I want, every single .1 that was in those oil cans was more than leaky. It was really bad. So, and those caps are bypass caps. They bypass the cathode, and they bypass the screen grid to ground. And if the one that bypasses the cathode is very leaky, you lose the gain of the tube. If the screen grid is leaky, it causes the screen resistor to get very warm and go up in value. So either one goes bad, you lose the gain of the tube. One, you lose the bypass of the cathode, you lose gain. The other one, the resistor goes up in value, so you have less voltage on the screen, so the tube, you lose gain. It doesn't usually damage the tube. How it can go bad is if there's a coil involved, on the plate, and it does it a certain way, and a coupling cap between stages, like in the audio section. The cap that goes on the grid of the audio amplifier tube, that cap gets leaky, and it changes the bias on the tube. The tube runs hotter, and it burns out the transformer in the audio section. Those are the certain parts you have to make sure when you power the radio that those parts are within tolerance. And because you'll get audio, but all of a sudden the transformer will open up. And when I was in tech school, we had this one guy. We called him Smokey. I won't say his last name, but he would not believe me that he had a 8-track player, and one channel burnt out because he was playing with the wires that go to the speaker. So he shorted out the transistors. And he continued to ride back and forth to school with that tape player. And I told him, once you burn out the output transistors, the current through there was an interstage transformer, and that would short out some of the windings. And he kept replacing the transistors, and he didn't mount them with the paste, the heat transfer paste, or the micas. And he just going through. He kept going out and buying another set of transistors. Finally, he fixed it by buying a circuit board of the same model from somebody else that had a bad motor. That's how he fixed it. But he would not listen. And I was fixing 8-track players left and right when I was in tech school. Everybody, I was trying something. They hook a bunch of extra speakers up to the output of the tape player. You can do that if they equal 8 ohms, or if it's a 16 ohm set or a 4 ohm output. But you just can't put 5 speakers in parallel. It runs the output transistor hotter, and then it shorts out. And back then they were using, believe it or not, I'm really old, they were using germaniums. And then it was just you question the person first before you even look at the tape deck, and you knew what you were going to find. And the one guy, he was cheap. He never paid me any money. So one day he had a grinding noise, and I knew right what it was. And there's a big capstan weight, and on the bottom of it, it rides on a piece of metal if it's a cheap player. And then I had Teflon pads that I double sticky taped them under that pivot point. And if I liked the person, they would get the Teflon. If I didn't like the person, I would take it apart real quick. I put some grease, automobile grease, under it, and the noise would go away. And then after he was away from me for a few weeks, he'd say the noise is back. I didn't care. I knew he didn't pay me. And then I told you the one time the one guy kept giving me tape players, and they never paid me. So I put a magnet in one after the head. So the tape would play one track, and then it would be blank. It would erase the other 3 tracks would never play. And he swore to me that he didn't give the tape deck back to somebody without getting the money. Well, that guy didn't pay him. He didn't pay me. I left a magnet in there. So he goes, this friend I know. And I'm like, I know what's coming. He plays a tape once, and then it doesn't play anymore. And I said, does it just play the first track before it switches? He goes, yeah. And I know which deck it is. I put the magnet in there. And that guy's dead now. It's amazing how many people screwed me over in life, and they're almost all dead. There's only like 1 or 2 more. They didn't screw me half as bad. But the people that screwed me the most, they're all dead. I outlasted them. That's one of those things I like to do. I like to pick up or go on the internet and find out that somebody that owes me money is dead. I'm never going to get the money anyway. But I think that's it. All right, that's it.